Welcome everyone to another episode of Sasquatchers. Drew and JC here again, presenting you with the Paranormal podcast with the punk rock attitude. And tonight we have an awesome guest that we're going to introduce after the very loud intro.
Woo! Drew and John. Podcast pioneers, unveiling the unknown with curious ears. From specters to Bigfoot, they dig deep. Sasquatchers on a quest that's unique.
Imagine being in your car and just hearing that woo. Next thing you know, your speakers are just blown out.
right. And I don't know. Let's give a round of applause for Ska Squatch or Skank Squatch. I'm not sure which one to call him, but
Skank Squatch sounds weird. It's like what people call my mom.
I think I know her.
Oh yeah, I bet you do.
But we are here tonight being joined by Austin Lawrence, and I'm going to let Austin introduce himself a little further, and then we'll get into the meat of the discussion.
Yeah, appreciate you all for having me tonight. Like you said, my name's Austin Lawrence. I've been a paranormal investigator for somewhere over a decade. I don't like to dig too deep into how long because it makes me feel older and older. And I'm also an author. I got 2 books out, Taylor Mill Horror and Hell's Carnival.
Yeah, and we'll talk about those too at some point in the show. You had sent copies to me, and I really liked them actually, and it made me want to talk about some influences or something. But the paranormal investigating,
Yes.
That's something to really dig into, and we're definitely in the mood. We just came off of an interview that was really great as far as hauntings, and it eerily similar to the Amityville horror this woman was experiencing in her house and stuff. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So the mood is set for that for us.
Well, she's still with the Baptists, so it's okay.
Everything was fine. It's the happy ending for everybody.
Right.
How did you get into paranormal investigating?
That's a good question. I just since I was a little kid, I've been interested in the paranormal. I don't know why. I had some interesting things happen around me, and that just kind of continued throughout my life. Then I was playing in a band, and I met this guy who was from Point Pleasant, and we kind of hooked up. And so he and I started.
Steve?
No, it was not.
Not Steve Ward. Okay.
Yeah,
no. But he and I decided to start to investigate together, and from there, that was a good 10, 15 years ago, and still at it.
Yeah. Do you still have the band? Does the band have music online that I can look up?
I don't think so.
Was it called
don't know.
Mothman Death Experience?
No, that would have been a lot cooler though. I'm trying to remember what it was even called because they changed the name like partway through, and I don't even remember.
we did a like a game show kind of thing a couple weeks ago, and I actually found out about a band randomly that way. So I'm like finding out about these random bands
right
through this podcast.
That's
mostly
awesome.
Death metal. So.
Yeah, a lot of times we talk about anything but the paranormal and cryptids.
Right.
Yeah,
this is kind of how it flows with us. So were you interested in kind of the TV shows? I feel like we appear to be roughly the same age.
Yeah.
So
Ghost Hunters was definitely a huge influence. And it was actually pretty cool back when the show first aired. They actually still had Tabs had their contact info on their website, and then they eventually took it down once the show got big. But Grant and I would talk back and forth on pretty much a daily basis, and he's the one who kind of really got me clued in to, you know, he was like, man, you need to start studying psychology, you need to start studying science, all this stuff. And then from there, I just kind of took after the things he said, and hopefully it made me a better investigator. I think it did.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you're talking to, at the time, at least, one of the most notable guys doing it.
Yeah.
That's always a plus. And it's always cool to hear when you can have that kind of experience with somebody, because he very easily could have ignored you and just went about his business and not responded to you. I did not do that with ghost hunting or paranormal stuff when I was that young, but I would always reach out to like indie wrestlers and talk to them because like I desperately wanted to
I was talking to Carino at that age.
Yeah. Steve Carino and Shirley Doe. Like every day, Shirley Doe is giving me advice. He wasn't telling me to study psychology. He was telling me to do squats.
Right.
But I know that feeling of being at the computer, just trying your best to learn from people that are, you know, it's their AOL time after a long day of work or whatever.
Yeah, early 2000s and 90s were a different time.
Oh man,
yeah,
it's so different back then. It's a time, and it's something, unfortunately, that like the younger generations will never get to experience.
Yeah,
right. That's so sad, too. That was such a great experience. Just coming home, flipping on the computer, downloading viruses through FrostWire, and talking on AOL. Like that was the best time.
Yeah, it was.
And getting kicked out of school for using AOL during school hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Running Half-Life servers on the school servers that they thought they had locked up, right?
Running a proxy, man. That was always the best.
Uh-huh.
So you had mentioned that you kind of got into this because of some experiences you had when you were younger. That's something I can relate to. I've very, very well documented on our show, so I won't get into mine, but I'm curious to hear about what had occurred with you.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of things. I lived and grew up in a over 100-year-old farmhouse. And you know, I used to hear this little girl talking all the time. I would see an apparition of a man and a woman walk over to my door and kind of like acknowledge me and then just kind of like disappear. But I mean, tons of crazy stuff happened, you know, in all my years in that house. And then, like I said, it just kind of grew, and everyone kind of knows me as like the most haunted person, which, you know, I always had lots of crazy stuff happen to me, but I always write it off because I'm a huge skeptical believer. And I'm big into science and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I started investigating with new groups, and they're like, man, what the hell is wrong with you? And I started to realize that, you know, pretty much anywhere I would go, activity would follow, even on vacation. And it made it really difficult in relationships, let me tell you. You know, the last girl I dated, she was like, why do I keep hearing footsteps down my hallway at night? I'm like, I don't know. It's weird. I've never heard of such a thing. You know, just stuff like that.
Okay, I see the game.
I keep chopping his head off at 3 in the morning.
Right. I'm like, that sounds like a personal problem. Don't know.
That's super creepy that they acknowledge that the two entities that you had said at the beginning there, that like they would almost like were acknowledging you, but that that was like they presented almost for you to have that interaction. Like
exactly,
you didn't stumble upon it, but they were kind of acutely aware that you were there.
Yeah, it was always a wild experience, and it was something that terrified me as a kid, obviously. But growing up, I'm like, wow, I wish I could go back in time and experience that again with kind of, you know, the knowledge and everything that I have now, because it was amazing.
Yeah, it's a completely different experience for a child than it is for an adult. Like 100% different lens that you see it through.
Do you still have access to that old home, or is it
still live there?
Oh, there you go. Okay. So are you still
is that a picture of it in the background?
No, that is that was taken at Brushy Mountain where we just filmed that the other week.
Okay.
Interesting.
But yeah,
So,
there's still plenty of activity going on.
Sweet. What is it about farmhouses? Like every farmhouse is haunted. It doesn't matter, if it was built 10 years ago, there's always some kind of activity at a farmhouse.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's very odd, other than, I guess farming land lots of times, there was a lot of hard work done there and a lot of dangerous work done there. And on top of that, I live in a Native American hotspot. So we've got that going on too. So, I mean, who knows?
That's another factor that it always kind of seems to be looming and ever present are the Native American burial grounds and the mounds that those occur at. I mean, there's, I don't know, maybe one or two shows that occur with us that don't have some type of relevance to that. It's kind of, man, they're everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, even Sasquatch,
even Sasquatch,
well prevalent in Native American culture and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure it out, understand it. I'm working on a documentary right now.
Yeah, we don't talk about Sasquatch that much.
Right.
The only Sasquatch that we really care about is the one that can play the saxophone in our intro. And beyond that, we don't acknowledge him.
It took Sasquatch.
Yeah, right. Perfect. I can't even remember how many episodes it took for us to actually talk about Bigfoot.
I think it was 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we came out of the gate pretty hardcore on paranormal investigating and, ghosts and spooky stuff for a while.
Right.
We talked about the, what was it, Colorado, where there was that sighting that was either some guy in a ghillie suit or where there was a train.
Oh,
people on the train saw the figure.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think that was the first time we talked about Sasquatch on here.
Oh, wow. That was pretty recent. Sort of.
I feel like October, maybe?
Yeah, October,
that sounds
November.
About right.
October-ish, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little bit it was some episodes into this podcast for sure. It's the most recent sighting that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did some investigating of a farmhouse, and it was one of those things where, you're kind of told these stories and you don't know if they're far-fetched or if somebody's messing with you or if they 100% believe it. And we were just told all the time about this house and how haunted it was. So we finally go out to it, and it's me and a couple of family members. We know the owners. He was totally cool with us going out there. He was probably thrilled with it. And it was very primitive. We didn't have a lot of technology or equipment. And honestly, I mean, I'd love to get your opinion on this because I like to gauge an investigator on it, but I feel pretty strongly, especially now more than ever, that kind of the primitive methods are still the most authentic way to investigate. So we had a camera and a Ouija board, and that was honestly about it. I can't remember if we put powder down on the floor or anything of that nature, but we were shown a photograph of the upstairs, and they were taking pictures. I don't know if it was to put on for a listing to sell the house or whatever, but there's a photograph and it's facing the window, and without even being shown, there's literally no coercion in seeing this image. You could see clear as day. Here's a man, like old school 1800s, has a monocle, mustache, and they're like a child next to him, and they're just right there in the window.
Wow.
And now that sounds amazing, but when we finally get there, we split up. My cousin goes upstairs. I'm working downstairs, and he comes downstairs and he's like, "Hey, I found the room where that picture was taken. Do you want to see the man?" And that was an odd question to me. And I'm like, "Oh,
Right.
man, yeah, I want to see this. Let's go." So we walk in, and he shows me the window. And because I knew where to look, I could still see it clear as day. And it was just the dirt on the window. It was just the smudged and old and filthy, and
Right.
it had formed in just a way that, like, we didn't even need so it looked so legitimate. We didn't even
Mm-hmm.
need someone to like create that image in our head to trick us into seeing it. Our minds just saw it. And that's something that's always sat with me with this type of stuff, especially in this field, because obviously our brains see some things that aren't necessarily there, or will piece something together with
Yep.
without having all of the puzzle pieces. And so it's a very tricky industry or hobby to be involved in. And I'm seeing now with TikTok, the man, it's just it looks like a theme park sometimes with
Mm-hmm.
investigators doing stuff. Like, what kind of equipment do you use when you go out?
So like you, we're really bare bones camera, audio recorder. When I take pictures, I actually use a film camera, which I got a really cool photo with one of those. I'll have to show you sometime. But shooting film, I have the negatives. Now I can prove in this digital media age that nothing was faked. It's right here. You can see the negative. So we try to stick very bare bones. Every once in a while, we'll throw in a spirit box, but that's about it.
I'm always kind of half and half with spirit boxes, because I have my
Mm-hmm.
own kind of prejudice against the technology, but
Right.
I can't in good conscience have this kind of podcast and talk to as many people as I have who swear by them without giving it
Right.
some kind of benefit of the doubt. So I have been thinking about getting one and trying to use it, but I haven't yet. We had Rob from Ghost Gear on, and he's an engineer. He creates this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and so having a conversation with him kind of put me at a little more ease with it. But I mean, it was originally created to talk to aliens, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yes.
Was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like, there's definitely almost like a side effect that they eventually started to pick up
Right.
ghosts. And so, I don't know. Maybe it's just too new. I don't want to be like that old guy that's yelling at kids on the lawn doing things differently. But I
mean,
just
spirit boxes have been around for a while, right?
yeah.
Yeah. No, I
it's
get what
just-
you're saying. And I was, I'm the same way. I'm very skeptical of it. It has to be very, very profound. But I'll tell you, I became a believer once I heard our voices coming through it before. And that's something that I've got no explanation for. And I have that on video where you can tell it's our voices coming through the spirit box. And it's like, how,
Yeah, that's.
I hear my voice coming through a spirit box, I'm done.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, like I'm quitting.
Wow.
Like I don't even care what it is. I'm quitting my job, quitting life. This is it.
Right.
What was the context of that conversation you were having? Where were you at? Like, what were you investigating when that occurred?
So we were at, let me think, we were at the Zophar Ramsdale house in Cerrado, West Virginia. Don't know how I remember that after like 10 years. But it was a place that was supposed to have a lot of poltergeist activity. And we're just sitting here, we're trying to communicate with this thing. And eventually it starts using my partner's voice coming through the ghost box. And it was absolutely insane. We didn't know what to, I mean, we had voices leading up to that. But once his voice started coming through, it was like, what are we dealing with right now? It was pretty wild.
Yeah, that's really cool. So
That's
what?
cool.
Yeah, no, that I'm just like I'm trying to put myself in that environment, right? Like the voices that you were getting before. Now, again, I've never used one. Now it's radio frequency, right? So doesn't it just kind of
Right.
pull from the radio waves? So you're skimming through, and then you're hearing like West Virginia's golden oldies, and then 2 seconds later, your partner's voice is just kind of coming out. Do you remember what it said?
I remember what them said for them. I don't remember why. And I forget, it came on there twice when we were talking to. I'd have to look at the video on YouTube. We use the, what was it? The SB12? I forget. There's a generation after the SB11, and what it does is you can sweep and forward and reverse at the same time. So you're not in theory, going to get full words because you've got two different radios overlapping, going at different frequencies at different speed rates. But now what we use is on our last investigation, we use the GeoPort, which is basically a ghost box hooked up to a guitar reverb and noise gate pedal coming through a small amplifier, and it takes out all the radio sounds. So you just get voices that come through.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I've not heard that being used in that manner before.
Yeah, you see them a lot of times. Investigators look like they have these old radios that they use, and they just throw these into old radio shells, and they're pretty cool.
What is the what's the most disappointed you've ever been from an investigation? Like, have you ever gone to some place
right now?
Was like,
the most disappointed he's ever been.
I didn't ask about podcasts. I asked about investigation.
Yeah, no, I get absolutely bombarded every time I get asked that, because it's 100% without a doubt Bobby Mackey's.
I'm not familiar with what is the fame behind Bobby Mackey.
So Bobby Mackey's is a bar in Kentucky. I forget where. I can't remember.
Okay, maybe I do know this.
But it's insanely popular because of Ghost Adventures. They made it really popular, then became known as Hell's Gate and all this other stuff and all this demonic activity. And
it's in Florence. It's right over from Cincinnati, right? It's
yes,
right
correct.
Across the okay,
correct.
I got you.
So everyone obsesses over that place, and it was the most disappointing load of crap that I've ever experienced in my entire life. One of the big things is that we paid a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, I think we paid like $1,200 to investigate for 8 hours. Wow. And you have to be chaperoned. And as we're getting chaperoned, we start to see the person who's chaperoning us pulling some stuff over on us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there was even one part where we sat down in front of the stage, and she was like, "Oh, can you hear the music?" I'm looking at her phone; it's hooked up Bluetooth to these speakers. I'm like, "Yeah, I can hear them, and I can see her phone hooked up to the." I was just a bunch of crap like that, and it was just so ridiculous. And they ended up making us leave early because we ended up kind of like getting into it with the chaperone because we're like, yeah, we
called them out on their Scooby-Doo tricks.
Exactly. And they're like, yeah, we think you guys should leave because you might be possessed. Literally the explanation they gave us. I kid you not. And I was like, I hate you guys so much.
Well, hold on. It just so happens I have a priest out here. We're going to take care of this right now.
Exactly.
Possessed with the knowledge and wherewithal not to be had by your bullshit.
Right.
Okay, so that's I'm glad that you brought that up because that leads me to a question.
Yeah, I was going there tomorrow, so I don't have to do that now. Cancel.
That's right.
I always like to ask paranormal investigators about this because, I mean, I'll be completely honest. The idea that people pay to investigate, like they rent out these facilities, that's completely new to me. I'm not sure when these historical buildings started to kind of almost, I don't know if that's tourism or attraction.
I can almost understand it to a point though, because like in your case with Bobby Mackey, it's to make money, right?
Yes.
But let's say you do have like these reformatories, penitentiaries, places like that. Like it costs money to upkeep these.
Right, right.
I kind of do get that a little bit.
A lot of these places are 501c3s, so they're not really getting any money in. And when you talk to them, they're like, yeah, some places kind of hate the ghost hunting now because everything that people put out is demonic. And they're like, we don't want that labeled as our location. So a lot of them now make you sign waivers saying, if you claim this is demonic, we're coming after you type of thing, which I think is good.
That sounds very demonic, though. That sounds like something that's something demons would do.
That's true. They might be tricking us. But they have to have that income because otherwise they can't keep up the places, you know? So you're right.
Yeah. But with that being said, I mean, what do you think the percentage is of people that are, you know, nonprofit upkeeping versus, well, we know that these two guys are going to pay us $1,200 for 8 hours, so now we have to grift. Like, is there a percentage to that? Have you encountered more of that, less of that? You know, there's a sucker born every day, as they say, right? You know, it's only a matter of time before. I mean, right there, the co-host is evidence of that.
I mean, I think it's always been pretty much the same. I noticed that even when I first started, there's a huge monopoly in the paranormal world. And that's kind of what the lady from Bobby Mackey's had going on. She had like 4 or 5 other properties. So there's this huge thing to where people buy up all these properties and then they jack up the prices and they rent them out. And the thing is that 99% of these places don't need to fake stuff, not necessarily because they're haunted, but because people believe they're haunted, and probably 80 to 90% of their clientele are thrill seekers who will go in there, see a shadow, get scared, and run out type of thing. So, you know, but there's also, like, for example, my buddy Eric Freeman Sims, who I investigate with, he just bought a house, and for us to investigate and to allow investigators in. And the big thing for him and I, when we were talking about it, is this is a very historical home that just wasn't being kept up. And we wanted to save it and mainly save the history of this location. So the way to do that is to buy it up, rent it out, take that money, put it back in the house, and, you know, allow it to, you know, grow and keep it up and get that history, untold history, really out there.
That's a really good point right there. Aside of everything paranormal, anything we talk about, buying these properties up for just the purpose of conserving history,
yes,
is beyond a noble cause. So if you can add in, it's haunted too.
Right, exactly. That's great. You know,
awesome.
We were talking back and forth for months about property, and it was like, it just has to be a historical place. Whether or not it's haunted, it doesn't matter. You know, as long as it's a historical site, and we're uncovering new stuff every day about this home that we didn't know. Now, apparently, it's part of the Underground Railroad, and it was a Civil War hospital, and all this other stuff that we're uncovering as, you know, we go. And, you know, it's great. And at the same time, the place seems to be active, and it seems like they understand what we're trying to do, and they're very grateful of that. And so they respond in such a way, you know, so it really all worked out. We got the best of all worlds.
That's a really interesting dichotomy there that you just brought up with, you know, you're preserving, you're learning about these events, and you're also getting this activity. Now, I'm kind of taking what you said almost as if that these spirits or entities or whatever is attached to that place is almost working hand in hand with investigators to not be forgotten, to maybe you're not just preserving history, but you're kind of preserving their essence.
Exactly. And I actually, it gave me an idea. Well, here at the end of the month, I'm going to go spend a week there. But later on, what I want to do is go there and just let them know, you know, I'm here to try to help you tell your story, set up some experiments, and try to have the first ghost written book by ghosts, right? And find ways to have them tell their story and write this book through me is the ultimate plan. But you're right. It seems like they want their story told, their history told, and to be remembered and preserved.
Yeah, that's probably an excellent way to do it too. That's really cool. I'm super interested to see the results of those experiments.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I'm really pumped for it.
Yeah, for sure. So outside of that, honestly, excellent idea. Are there any other kind of out of the box methods that you're using on an investigation that are kind of just notable to yourself?
I don't really think so. I mean, the main thing is we go in and we let our intentions be known, and we say thanks, for allowing us in here. We just want to tell your story, share your story. And we tell them we don't want you to perform like a circus act. We don't want you to, give us activity for clicks, which we don't. We just want to tell your story if you're willing to speak. And that is our main approach that I think differs from a lot of YouTubers and other people out there. They want the clicks, they want the activity, punch me in the face, scratch me, all that stuff. That's something we never do. We go in there with good intentions to say, do you want to talk?
I think that's one of the many side effects of Zach Baggins, who really popularized that almost bro-like aggression when you walk into an investigation, and you definitely see the side effects of that all through the internet at this point. It's honestly kind of depressing.
It is. It really is. But I mean, that's him. And it's kind of funny because one of my good friends now, she was actually like a home team investigator of this hospital in Fayetteville. And Ghost Adventures went and came out, and they came out with a full script. They're like, okay, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And they're like, you don't need a script. This place is haunted. They're like, no, we got to go by the scripts. So they had all this activity scripted out. And it's funny because there was the owner of the place said he didn't want to be on camera, but they ended up getting him on camera, and they mic'd him up and everything. And at some point, this door slammed shut, and it kept doing it. And Zach's freaking out, and he was like, "That's just the door up top. It doesn't latch, And so it keeps doing it, and then Zach goes running in there. He's like, "Oh my God, we got to get this on camera." And he's telling him, like, "Dude, that happens all the time." So he runs in the building. And the guy, forgetting he's mic'd up, he was like, "These dumbasses. Why do we let him in here?" And he said he looks over and all the sound guys are just busting out laughing. He's like, "What's so funny?" Then he looks down, realizes he's still mic'd up. He's like, "Oh God." Zach heard that.
Man, I want to meet the guy that called Zach a dumbass. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks, man. It's so much. I mean, reality TV's produced. I mean, that's not a secret. I mean, we saw the effects of that on Ghost Hunters, even as the
Jersey Shore,
as the seasons went on. I got really into the older episodes again over the summer, and I was watching like the first couple of seasons, and it's incredible how often they are preaching skepticism and disproving and you have to be careful about labeling things as a haunting when, check and do research. And,
it's a drip in a water pipe, right?
Yeah, that's the water pipe. That there's something across the street causing all of this, EMF readings. And that just really disappears like season 3-ish and beyond. It starts to get into that sensationalized stuff. And it's just such a bummer that
I will fist fight you demons.
Right.
I will say I've never saw Steve Gonzalez try to fight a demon like Zach Baggins does.
That is true.
So there's at least some semblance of credibility left with those guys. But
I mean, Steve, he went on to do The House in Between, and I don't know if you've seen that. Phenomenal. If you haven't seen the first one or second one, go watch it. Stop this interview, go watch it. It's extremely what you're talking about. And a lot of people don't like it because it's like 90% debunking the story and 10% investigating. And it is so phenomenal.
What was it called?
Yeah. It's called The House in Between. There's
right,
a
cool.
1 and a 2, and it is absolutely phenomenal.
I'll definitely see.
Oh, it's on Tubi.
Oh,
yeah,
my favorite. Yeah. I watch everything on TV. I met Steve years ago. Like I was still pretty young. It was right at the beginning of their show. I don't recall like Jason or Grant or anybody being there, but it was a Comic-Con and they had a table set up, and I talked to him about everything but the paranormal and ghosts and stuff because I didn't like. I was like, oh man, everyone talks to this guy about ghosts. He's gonna appreciate the fact that I'm gonna ask him about this movie, or I don't even remember what we talked about.
What's your favorite cereal?
Yeah, it was Fruit Loops. I was totally surprised. Seemed more like a Cocoa Puffs kind of guy, but
right.
But yeah, so I didn't get much from that other than this is a pretty genuinely good dude. So that one experience I had with him was incredibly positive. And it happened the same day that Kane Hodder treated me like garbage. So I had one legend treating me like crap, and then I had Steve who's just I didn't buy anything. I didn't have money. I was in middle school or high school or whatever. Like he just chatted to chat. It was a super cool guy. So it's cool that those guys, at least from my knowledge, still kind of maintain that even though the show kind of went off the rails. He just had a book come out recently. I was thinking about picking up, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Was it ghost written?
Oh, that's a good pun. I don't know if
that's pretty good.
That's all I got, guys. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. I was waiting for it, but
Austin, this is your podcast now. I'll see you later.
We've been saying that to pretty much every guest, and nobody ever sticks around.
No takers.
I'm stuck with him, unfortunately.
Man, that's rough. I apologize.
So I asked you about the most disappointing. What was the most surprised you've been at a location for being active? Like maybe a dud that you thought was going to occur, but you kind of were blown away by it.
Most surprised. I would have to say for surprise, it would have been the first episode that we filmed for this new channel was at the Commodore Hotel in Linden, Tennessee, I think. But we were going off of literally nothing. It's kind of funny because when I first met Eric, I was coming down there to hang out with him and Mustafa and Brandon Alvis from Ghost Hunters. And we met up at a hotel down in Louisville. And so when we got this Commodore Hotel, someone else had booked it for us. So let's go check this out. And it was still an operating hotel, but they were cool enough to be like, yeah, come and investigate. It's cool with us. And they opened up the whole place to us. But it was kind of funny because the day that we went back and started filming was the year anniversary that we had met. And we're back in a hotel again to film our first episode. And it just seemed like, I didn't expect anything out of it, but we got some pretty cool stuff, some footsteps, some voices. And we knew literally no claims. We just knew it was an old historic hotel, and that's why we were drawn to it. Like, heck yeah, why wouldn't we want to go stay in an old historic place, Yeah,
especially hotels. Like, I don't know if it's because of The Shining or if there's some other zeitgeist thing that kind of creates that. The hotels are creepy, like just in a sense.
Yeah.
Like even the more expensive, nicer ones I've been to, when you're alone in a hallway, still I don't know if it's because of Ghostbusters when they find Slimer or something. There's something that's just kind of visceral about about a hotel, and I can't think why.
I mean, I think it's kind of like the same reason why hospitals are the same way. I mean, you think about hotels, people die in there, they overdose, they commit suicide, there's fights in there, there's murders in there. I mean, literally everything happens in hotels because you have
just like
thousands of people in there in and out every single day. So there's a lot of darkness in every single hotel out there. I don't care. I don't think there's a single hotel out there that hasn't had at least a couple deaths in it, you know?
Not out here in Cleveland.
Even
yeah.
It's mandatory.
It is. You get like a 25% discount if you kill someone.
You have to kill somebody to rent a room here.
Right.
The incredibly small town hotels out here where I live in the middle of Pennsylvania all have deaths like that occur pretty often too. It's real strange. You know, I read that in Nevada, someone dies daily in the hotels.
Las Vegas for sure.
Gambling deaths or whatever. Like they're like the suicide rate at the hotels in Vegas is like the highest of any another. Like, I don't know if it's the world or just America, but have you?
I'd say pretty brave. You could probably say probably the whole world.
Yeah, probably.
Which that one caught me off guard too. For I don't know, just for shock because I don't know. I stayed in Vegas. Nobody when I was there at least like committed suicide, but
that you know,
just
they're really good at covering that stuff up.
Yeah, I bet they're really good at that by now. But have you ever done anything out in Vegas?
No, I haven't. I've mainly been like Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, kind of that side.
The best states.
What kind of stuff have you done in Ohio? That's where JC lives.
Ohio. So, of course, Mansfield. I'm trying to think of all the places. Stansville Rectory. Yep. But my all-time favorite place of anywhere that I've ever been, Prospect Place Mansion in Trimway. There's only like maybe 2 or 3 places I will ever say, you know, out of all the places I've been are haunted. Prospect Place, Trimway, Ohio, haunted, 100%.
Trimway?
Trimway. It's I believe east of Columbus.
That's center middle left of the state, or you said east, sorry, center right of the state.
Yeah, correct.
Trenway Estate. Oh yeah, okay. I see it. It's a real thing.
I don't know much.
No, it's
I don't know much about it.
It's an amazing place.
I don't either.
Part of the Underground Railroad. Man, George Adams moved from New York to Ohio to start a part of the Underground Railroad, and then literally bought and built an entire town around it so that he could have access to like the waterways so that escaped slaves could leave their boats there. And he planned this entire city around helping people escape slavery. So it's this really cool place and it's really wild.
You got a lot of activity there.
Oh yeah. I mean, literally anything you think of. I went a couple months back, and I think that was like the 40th night that I've stayed there.
Okay.
It used to be back in the day, you could rent it out for like 2 weeks and you wouldn't have to leave. So we would just stay there for a week or two at a time and investigate at night and just stay there during the day. But it's a place I always keep going back to.
Interesting fact that has nothing to do with any of this, but I just saw it here. It was one of the first buildings that had modern refrigeration in it. It wasn't because he had refrigerators. He had pipes installed throughout the field, the yards, and that, where it was just piping out hot air and it was cooling the basement. So they kept cheese, milk, and it was basically air conditioned before air conditioning was the thing. Totally random fact. Just wanted to throw that out there.
No, yeah. And they had one of their daughters died and they kept her down there for months because they couldn't break ground during the winter. Yeah. They couldn't break ground during the winter, so they would keep bodies down there too.
That's where I would keep a body.
So keep it down in the basement with your cheese.
Cold enough to house dead bodies, man. That's
and cheese.
Yes.
That's an interesting combination for sure.
That's like HVAC company should use that in their marketing. You know?
Our HVAC is cool enough that you can keep a dead body. Dude, I would have bought an air conditioner if somebody told me that.
Right.
It's very clearly a well-made air conditioner. If you can do that, you have me as a customer. The marketing would absolutely work on me.
Every hotel in Cleveland.
Something that I really enjoy about this stuff, that for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because maybe people scoff at it, but EVPs.
Yes.
So many investigators keep those to themselves. And one of the reasons that I've been told is that, like, well, it's our evidence. We're not really trying to prove anything. We know what we have. But I grew up listening to Art Bell Coast to Coast.
Yes.
And
yep.
That's one of the main reasons why I do this and was inspired to try to, have conversations is, Art Bell and those shows. And one of my favorite topics that he would do from time to time are the EVPs. And when he would have, a 3.5 hour show of just these EVPs that were collected by investigators, and they would talk about it. It was just something that, I don't know if it's because I listened to that. I still kind of romanticize EVPs. So, like, do you have any good EVPs? Are you of the same mindset that you know what you have, so you don't have to share them, or you're not looking for approval, or would you share them?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some really cool EVPs, and what we do is we throw out stuff to the public to look at, and we will never say this is evidence. We'll never say this is a ghost. We'll never say this is a spirit. So it's nothing that, we're keeping to ourselves or trying to prove to ourselves. We don't know what we have. We know it's paranormal. That's all we can tell you. But yeah, we've had some really cool EVPs, and actually, Brushy, the next video we're gonna be working on, we had this really cool moment where we caught this voice that was so loud that it literally echoed through the entire cell block, and we captured it on camera and on audio. And I don't know that I've ever heard anything so loud to literally echo and reverberate, but we got it. And it was just one of the coolest things I've captured.
Yeah, I think that would probably be pretty terrifying, that this is echoing right there.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where, like, you even hear me on the camera, I'm just like, wait, what? That was my response. I was so confused because that doesn't happen, right? Like, that can't be it shouldn't be a thing, but it was, and it just happened. So
yeah, so
we're just kind of
so many of them, you have to sit there and kind of go through, like, that boredom of scanning through your evidence. And it's one thing everybody talks about is, like, that it's actually a very boring thing to do, is to sift through your 8 to 12 hours of evidence, and then you're like, oh wait, I think I have something. So to go to the complete opposite of that, where it's like almost a disembodied voice.
Right.
Well, the good thing about having an EVP on tape is I can mark where I know where I was at, because that's when I shit myself.
There you go.
So I'll throw this out there. Do you think you and the crew would come on sometime and share some EVPs? I've been wanting to do just an EVP episode forever, and I can't find anybody.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I actually know someone who Centrator Hill, she's an author and a paranormal investigator, and she started Elk Valley Paranormal EVP because she's obsessed with EVPs. That's kind of her specialty and her thing. So I guarantee she'll come on too. She's amazing.
That would be great. I'd love to have, like, just, like a panel, 4 or 5 people just all come on, and just kind of like the way the Art used to do it, where, you send them and we can throw them on our soundboard, and then you just kind of talk about, the situation you were in when you found it, and then we play it for everybody to hear. And, those are all super fun, but creepy, and you just kind of get all the emotions from an EVP. I don't know why so many people have kind of moved on from them, but I still think they're just the coolest shit in the world.
I agree with you.
Why don't we do one better and just invite them out to the Franklin Castle here in Cleveland?
Dude, I tried so hard to get us in there for our season this year.
What do you even have to? You just come out and go. It's literally down the road from my house.
Yeah, we tried renting it out, but they want way too much money. Way too much money
for the castle.
Yeah,
it's just open. Just go.
What?
You just go.
I'm so confused because I know they have like rooms in there now where people stay or something, and we tried renting out to investigate, and it was like a ridiculous amount of money.
Well, no, the Franklin Castle is wide open.
Are we talking about the same place?
I don't think we are.
He's gonna go ahead and Google that.
So it's called it's in the area is called Franklin. It's called Squire's Castle. My bad. I was calling it.
Franklin Squire's Castle. Okay, Castle. Yeah, Franklin Castle is totally different. I've been to Squire's Castle.
Yeah. So not super interesting. I've been there too. During the day. I haven't been there during night. But screw it. Let's do it. Let's go.
Something I'm also not familiar with. What is Squire's Castle?
It's an old castle in the woods.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a big open.
I mean, like it's not that fantastic. Like we make it sound like it's whoa, look at this castle in the woods. It's cool, but it's
if you can imagine a sandcastle made out of like stone, that's what it is. You know,
but it's supposed that and the area around it is supposed to supposedly be haunted.
That's what I've heard.
And then there's the Hillendale Bridge is near there, and then we can go and we can reinvestigate the Melonheads.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Austin. Do you investigate other types of paranormal stuff, or are you kind of strictly ghosts and haunted?
So we are going to be filming a full documentary. We're investigating something else. Hopefully this year. Everything's kind of like picked up and things got crazy, so we haven't had the chance yet. But if we do it and when we do it, you know, ghost hunting, I'm totally cool with. You know, we never really, you're never really quite on edge, never really scared. If we do this, I will be genuinely terrified the entire time. So
okay, well, that you definitely caught my interest there.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty wild. So we're hoping to get it done this year.
Cool. You'll have to keep me posted on that. Something that would scare you like that is definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
Something. I don't know, I'm one of those dummies that just kind of I hate to call myself like a thrill seeker because I'm like terrified of heights and roller coasters and things like that. But you tell me that there's like a monster or something, I'm the first one there. Like I don't know what it is about it, but he brought up the Melonheads. We have a documentary on our YouTube channel that we made where we went out and we're doing Melonhead stuff, and I think I want to revisit that and
doing Melonhead stuff.
And I don't know. I kind of like the quirkier, zanier things. Like everybody right now, all you ever hear is LBL and Dogman and all of these fantastical things that are happening. I think is Land Between the Land. I think that's Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the hot thing right now, but
there's the whole story behind the town with the Melonheads that we didn't even touch. Kirtland, Ohio, we did not even touch.
Oh, right. Wow.
And the one thing that I really liked about Kirtland was that when we started to do this Melonhead stuff, I looked into the history, and there's so much that I think that I might be the only person up until this point that kind of pieced all of these into one possible scenario, that they're all deep connected and together. And that
the first Mormon temple is there.
Yeah.
There was then a psychopathic cult that formed there.
Yep.
And I don't know if I should be surprised by this, but the people of Kirtland wanted nothing to do with these conversations about this stuff. I reached out to the police. I reached out to the local political offices, the mayor himself.
We reached out to the police departments around Kirtland. Not even just Kirtland, but like Willoughby Hills, Chardon, stuff like that, and nobody would even talk to us.
Yeah,
it's wild.
So that to me almost kind of that gives me Freddy Krueger vibes, right? That's Springwood slasher type stuff where everybody's like, if we ignore this, this will go away, and you don't see that
you're not ignoring it now because we're filming it.
Right, exactly.
And ironically, when we were out there was a cop that was following us around for a bit too.
Yeah.
But
it's always crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy to run into towns like that, and then like where Eric got the new house at is in Hopkinsville, and they're the complete opposite. I mean, they have, goblins inside their museum after the whole Hopkinsville goblin thing. They embrace that weird and that crazy. But some towns, if you even mention something, they look like they're going to kill you,
Yeah.
It's like, don't even talk about it. It's so weird.
It has to do with the murders and the cults and stuff.
Why would you not embrace the Melonheads? I'd be the Melonhead capital of the freaking United States.
Yes, 100%.
A giant paper mache melon head, and you put it there next to the road.
We'd have the Melon Festival every summer.
Yes, 100%.
But you don't see that with ghosts and hauntings, though. Like, it seems like that's almost mostly embraced, and I'm not sure what the difference is between something like a melon head or a creature versus the haunting or the ghost or that place over there. It's this haunted, and then everybody kind of embraces it. And do you have a thought on that? Like, what differentiates it?
I think it's just a little bit easier to believe in ghosts, especially, I don't know what percentage, but a huge percentage of the population is some sort of religion and believes in an afterlife and stuff like that. So then if you believe in that stuff, you believe in spirits. So I think a lot of people are more accepting of the possibility of spirits as opposed to, these crazy beings out there that are, a bastardization of, human beings or animals or whatever you want to call it, things that shouldn't exist. So I think people just have a tougher time buying into those kind of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess also, if you can allow yourself to embrace the idea of hauntings and ghosts, then that might allow you to accept your mortality a little easier.
Yes, perhaps. That too. Yep.
So yeah, I mean,
that makes a lot of sense actually. Like that's one of the most cohesive things I've heard in a long time on here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's like outside of I lost my train of thought, but
cool.
Very rare. It's back. Very rarely do you see so outside of maybe like super religious folks or something, or someone whose religion doesn't allow that to exist. Most people just embrace ghosts and like, oh, that's that haunted mansion, and every town has one, and you don't go over there at night. There's a deep superstition that most people, I think, still have on the subject, but that kind of doesn't exist when you start getting into some of the more out of this world kind of stuff, like Sasquatch or Dogman even.
But it also depends what part of the country you're in. If you go to Kentucky, you'll see it. You'll talk to people that will say, don't go into those woods after night because Bigfoot will get you, because whatever will get you. And they have a super deep believing in all these different cryptids in some of these areas. And, you talk to a random guy in the street and he'll tell you, stay away from that area, because of the Dogman, because of whatever it may be.
My dad is from West Virginia, grew up in West Virginia and Kentucky. He'll tell you just don't even walk outside of the yard of the house.
Right.
You're getting picked up by Mothman. The Flatwoods monster is going to get you. Grafted monster is going to get you. Just don't. Just stay in your house forever.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of like I don't know. Is that unique to Appalachia? Do like the other parts?
I think Appalachia does have a uniqueness.
Right? Yeah. Oh, 100% they do. I mean, it's a different vibe just driving through there. It's wild.
I mean, even if you're just driving through as a normal person who's not like aware of the cryptid, the paranormal, like it's a totally different experience. When you hit Appalachia, you start hitting like the hills with the coal mines that used to be there. You're driving literally through towns of like two houses, every once in a while. They're up in the hills. It's totally different, man.
Yeah, and I you know, thinking about it, it really might have something to do. I mean, you look at the, I always say, you know, I really listen to what Native Americans say, because no one has been as connected spiritually and everything else to the land as them. But if you look at the people in Appalachia, it's kind of the same way, right? They were living off the land. They didn't, like you said, you might see a house every couple miles, you know, whether they were in the coal mines or whatever, they were very much living off that land and understanding, especially being in the woods. They have to know, what was that sound? What was that? So I think there might be kind of a parallel there too, where they were more at one with nature than we are.
Oh, 100%. Those those, some of those people, even in my dad's generation, they were living off the land. They live in shacks.
Yeah, absolutely.
My dad grew up in a shack, according to him. But I believe it because like, they didn't have money. He doesn't come from money. They were living in shacks and they had their vegetable farms and things out there. And then you're right, like if they weren't working in the mines, then they were out back in the land.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting area, and it's one that people seem to have like this.
Because, well, people like to make fun of it because it's poor rednecks. Haha, funny, right?
Yeah,
poor rednecks.
Well, you got the people that'll make fun of the rednecks versus the people that like. There's a reverence to that most, at least in the paranormal field, have for it. It's almost it's like the paranormal Graceland. Like people want to visit it and look at the deep history behind it. And holy cow, it is after an hour. That was probably the fastest hour that we've ever had, honestly.
I think so. Yeah, it went really fast.
So much that I wanted to get into with you.
I'm not even done with Appalachia
yet. Right.
So real quick, I guess. I mean, we hit our hour. If you don't mind staying for a couple minutes to keep talking, I also.
I'm cool, man. I'm here all night.
But why don't you
tell us that?
I mean, I work midnight, so you know.
Cool. Tell us about your channel and how it came to be and some of the content that listeners can find on there.
Yeah, so Strangely Haunted. That's me and Eric Friendsons from the Unseen Paranormal podcast. We kind of met up when he had me on his show, and then we became really quick, great friends. He lives in Nashville, so it's about 6.5 hours from me here in Ohio. So you know, I'll travel down there and we'll go and we'll investigate different locations. Like I said, we did the Commodore Hotel. We did the Old Stone Jail and Sims Museum, County, and Archives. Are the two that are up. We just did Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. And we've got investigations lined up every single month. And really what we do is, like we were talking earlier, the season 1, season 2, season 3 Ghost Hunters is really kind of what I would compare our stuff to. We're constantly debunking. We will never say a place is haunted. We never tell you what to believe, what to think, or what something is. And it's really just talking about history. We always have at least a minute to minute and a half, 2 minutes of history before every video of the place. And it's, you know, about telling the history and telling the stories of people who may have lived there and maybe still roam there.
It's super cool. I think that's really cool that you do that, because I think online now there's so many of the things that are clickbaity and just trying to get that like, or you know, that view. And so to take that time to lay out the history, there are a few investigators that I've talked to that share that sentiment with you. And I think it really differentiates and separates and kind of puts you guys on a different level. So I definitely encourage people to follow up and check that stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, the history is so important. It's like when I tell people when I'm taking to Prospect Place, I'm like, I guarantee you're going to have an experience. But even if you don't, you get to spend a night alone in one of the most historic and important places in Ohio. So just take that in. You know, it's just it's such an honor to go into a lot of these locations, how can you not tell the history and just be absorbed by it, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, it goes hand in hand, because without that history, that those hauntings aren't there.
Exactly.
And the history, I mean, like, that's perfect, because like you get the ghost, the haunting story, but then you get the history, and the history is important. We have to keep history going, you know, until the world ends, right? We got to have that story to tell.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about not just telling history, but hopefully connecting with it, you know?
Connecting, yes.
Yeah. And before we let you go, let's have you kind of talk about your books real quick for a minute, because I do want to. I want people who come on here to be able to promote everything. And one of the things that I've seen you do, because we are Facebook friends, and you were posting reviews and kind of laughing at them being so incredibly positive, and I thought that was funny, and I wanted to ask you about that. But go ahead and tell the listeners about your books that you have published.
Yeah, so I've got Paranormal Horror was my first one. It is about an investigation that I did some years back. Ironically, the same night as Bobby Mackey's. We basically got told there's this house, it might be haunted. Do you want to go stay there? And we're like, yeah, it's guaranteed it's not haunted, but we got a place to stay. We're poor. Let's do it. And it ended up being the most terrifying 100% haunted places. Not one of the most terrifying and haunted places I've ever set foot inside. And we stayed for a night. We all swore to never go back. Within a couple weeks, we were back for a week. So yeah, that was the first one. It's everything that happens in the book happened in real life. It's all a true story. Just the names of characters have changed, and to protect them and stuff like that. So then after that, I decided to kind of switch it up, and I wrote my fiction-based horror novel, Hell's Carnival, which is just kind of I tell everyone, you probably don't want to read it, but if you do, that's on you, not on me, because it's pretty messed up in parts. So
I like that book a lot, and I wanted to ask, because I saw it probably because I'm also a fan, but unless I'm completely wrong and I misread it entirely, but like I picked up some Rob Zombie influences. Like your descriptions and some of the scenarios that are in that book were just very much like something that I could see the Firefly family doing in the
yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, when I was writing it, I listened to 99% Rob Zombie. Just because that was I knew that was the vibe.
Through the witch's hair in the back of my Dragula.
The number of times I listened to that song.
I was able to pick up on that really easily, and so I'm glad I
That's awesome.
Kind of place that and have you like look at me and be like, oh no, absolutely,
no,
sucks. Why would I ever? But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I wanted everybody to not take him seriously when he dunks on his reviews, because I think that they're deserved. And check the books out. Check out Strangely Haunted. Do you have anything else that you wanted to promote before we end the show? Anything at all?
Maybe my OnlyFans.
Definitely. You definitely. Why didn't you open with OnlyFans?
Right. Okay, so that was actually, I was not expecting that.
No, I think that pretty well covers it, man.
All right, awesome.
Well, we weren't supposed to tell everybody, but we did. This was between us, man.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm definitely gonna reach back out so we can set something up and do something with the EVPs and have that panel on.
For sure.
I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I'll be reaching out soon. I want to thank anyone who is listening right now for taking the time to do so. check out all of Austin's stuff, and I'm going to quiz anybody about them, especially the books, because they are actually really good. And I do appreciate you sending them to me. I'm going to go ahead and hit the outro. It's a minute long, so if you decide you want a piece before it's over, I won't hold it against you. And good night, everybody.
I'm leaving.
We're reaching the end, kids are still that groove. Thanks for tuning in, we're in the sky loop. From the start till now, we've been having a blast. So put on your dancing shoes, it's time to skate fast. We've got a request, a little favor to ask. If you like what you hear, give us a thumbs up and clap. Subscribe to our channel, join the Sky Nation. We'll keep spreading the rhythm worldwide sensation. Thanks for tuning in, it means the world to us. Like and subscribe, show your love and don't fuss. Check us out on YouTube, we're ready to roll. Skate with us forever, straight to your soul.
Dude, that
Squatching,
exit song
everybody.
has nothing